How's everyone doing? Hope you're alright. Cody back again, dropping yet another video. Right, today's video, guys, is going to be on do I think prison works? Right, i.e., reform, getting out of prison, starting afresh, staying out of trouble. Right, from my perspective, obviously, as a former prisoner. Right, because what it is, right, I see a lot of people doing interviews on TV, on news and stuff, right, criminologists and stuff, speaking about prison and stuff like that. How can people speak about prison that have never been in prison, right? You can only talk about things you have experience of, right? That's why I do these videos, right? So anyway, guys, let's just jump straight into it, right? So obviously I've been in prison a few times now. Ashamed to say that, to be honest, but it's a cold fact. Prison, right, is for a lot of people, right, when people are in trouble and stuff like that, people seem to get, some certain people get chances, i.e. the judge will give them a suspended sentence. A suspended sentence, for those that don't know, is it's like your last chance it's your last chance. Like, if you get in trouble, if you get like a 2-year suspended sentence, right, that means if you get in trouble in the next 2 years, you going straight to prison, right? You go to prison, you end up in prison, right? And what people do, people seem to carry on committing crime and getting in trouble and stuff, right? And then when you finally go to prison, it's like the fork in the road, right? There are way too many people that go back to prison time and time again, right? And then you've got the ones that learn from the mistakes and from prison, not because prison's like hard or anything, but they just realize, like, oh well, I've got kids now and like it's not worth it and stuff like that. So when the fork in the road comes, prisons, either you get left or you get right. There's far too many people that just keep going through prison and stuff, the revolving door, which is prison. People go back and back and back to prison time and time and time again. And you've got those that actually learn the lesson, that stay out of prison, right? Prison for me, it doesn't work in any realm, right? You've got, I can only speak about my experiences, guys, right? But from what I've seen and from what I've learned, right, like I've been in two different prisons, right? I've been in Strangeways, which is Cat A in Manchester, and I've been in Cat B, Forest Bank in Salford. Now, when I ended up in Cat B, Forest Bank, right, it was my second stretch in there, right? Now, I bumped into people that I seen on my first sentence. So that leads you to believe that, like, people are not learning the lesson. There are some that just realise and think, you know what, I've got kids now, I've got a missus, right, and they've got something to lose if they go back to prison. Then you've got people within the prison system that they've come from broken homes, they've lived hard lives, they've had bad childhoods, they don't have kids, they don't have many friends, and they don't have family because they've fallen into a cycle of crime and stuff. They might have become addicted to drugs and alienated all the family, or the family have cut them off because they're sick of the criminality, they're sick of having the police at the door every 2 minutes, right? And I'm finding my personal experience is the people with something to lose, right, still end up in prison, but not as much as people that have got nothing to lose. If you've got nothing to lose on the outside, right, you're more suited to prison. There's a lot of people in prison that I was in prison with, and you just know by talking to them, the mannerisms, the way they are, they're going to go back to prison, right? Now, that's a sad state of affairs. Don't want to see anybody in prison, yeah, man, right? But it goes on. And if you've got nothing on the outside, right, you've got nothing to look forward to. There's no dangle in the carrot for you, is there? There's nothing to, oh, well, this is why I'm going to stay out of trouble, or that's why I'm going to stay out of trouble, right? And then they're the people that fall back into the cycle of crime. Now, for me, when you're in prison, right, this is the dumbest down way I can explain it to you guys, right, by breaking it down. When you go to prison, right, it's like being in the naughty class at school, right? You've got all the kids from the naughtiest classes all thrown into one class, right? Now, but we're not obviously kids, we're grown men, we're criminals, right? And we come together. Now, what you do, you end up making criminal connections, right? So you've got fraudsters, you might have people that are involved with firearms, drugs, they might be offers of work, debt collecting, or this person stitched me up, right? You could get a prisoner that's on a long stretch, right? He's been stitched up by someone. He might offer you a load of money, to go after the person that's put him in prison. And believe me, guys, it does go on. But like I say, it's you end up learning. People are in for credit card fraud, right? They're teaching you how to do it, yeah, how to skim machines and stuff, right? How to make skimming devices and stuff like that. You've got other people that say, oh look, when you get out, here's my boy's number, he'll sort you out some work and that, right? Obviously criminal, we're talking about criminality, right? And it goes on, and then because when you get out of prison, people are losing their homes and stuff on short sentences and stuff, and then they're like, well, people want to earn money in the quickest possible way, right? And that's what's happening. People are committing crime because they're gaining criminal connections within prison. So does prison work? No, I don't think it does, right? Then you've got prisons like Cat A Strangers here in Manchester, right? My experience was no reform, no education, no courses, 23-hour, 24-hour sometimes bang up, right? Now, being thrown in a cell and locked behind your door for years, right, or months or years, or like depending on how long you get sentenced to, how does that reform you? It doesn't. You get out of prison, right, you're on license, you've lost your accommodation, right, because you might have been renting a flat or something, that's been taken from you, you've been evicted because of rent arrears, or your house has been repossessed because you're living on your own, you're not able to pay your rent, right? So what is there for you to do? You've got nothing to look forward to. There's no help and reform within the prison. There's no education. You're a convict, right? So you're not going to get a job. There are companies out there that have been in the media that employ ex-prisoners, but there's not many. So what do people do? They turn back to crime because it's better to earn like a wage that way than it is to have nothing. But like I say, a lot of people get out of prison and they don't like the fact they've got nowhere to go. Right? They might be in bail hostels, right? Bail hostels, in my opinion, are set up to fail. People are going back, right? They've got out of prison. If you've been done for like, I don't know, fighting while you're pissed, right? They'll say you're not allowed to drink. You go back to the hostel, they breathalyze you. If you've got over a certain milliliter of blood, of alcohol in your breath, you'll end up getting breached. You go back to prison, right? And it goes on, guys. And like I say, prison does not work in any way, shape or form in that regard. The only person that can change you and your behavior is yourself, right? And if you're not given the tools to do that, right, it's very easy to slip into the life of crime, the cycle of crime. Some people get out of prison and end up going straight back because they want to go back because they're better suited in prison. They know how prison works. They've got a roof over their head, TV, warm cell. They've got free use of a gym, drugs, mobile phones, prison alcohol, which is known as hooch, all there, right? Because on the outside, they've got nothing. They've got nothing to look forward to. Then you've got the prisoners that have got kids, they've got families, they've made a wrong decision, they've made a wrong choice, right? They've ended up in prison, right? And they're desperate to get back to the friends and the family and the loved ones and the kids. And you see people in prison like getting upset because they've let the kids down. They're an embarrassment to the family. They're disgusted at, like, they feel guilty that they're dragging the family through this prison sentence because, like I say, prison is a roller coaster, not just for prisoners, right, but for the prisoners' families, because they're on the roller coaster ride with you. When you're up, they're up. When you're down, they're down. Because they're powerless to help you, and you're powerless to help them if they've got problems on the outside. So, like I say, prison in my eyes is no way a deterrent. You're exploited in prison. If you do get a job in prison, like I say, I was working as a cleaner for 7 days a week for £10.25. Now, if that's not slave labour, then I don't know what is, right? Like I say, prison is no way a deterrent, to be honest. Like I say, there's two ways you can look at it. You can look at it, there's two types of prisoners, right? You've got the ones that are lost in the system and they're going to go back to prison every time, right? Because they're better suited in prison. They've got nothing to look forward to on the out. And that's a sad state of affairs, and I feel sorry for them prisoners, right? Then you've got prisoners on the outside, you've got prisoners on the inside, sorry, that have got friends and family and kids and stuff. They've made bad choices in their life, and prison's a kick up the arse where they think, you know what, I ain't going back to prison. But it's not the prison system, it's not the way that the prisons run that makes them change. It's because they realise that they're missing the kids' Christmases, they're missing birthdays for the kids, they're missing fucking family occasions, weddings, fucking christenings and things like that because they're locked up in prison. Like I say, it's not the prison system that changes them, it's them that change themselves. They think, you know what, I'm too old for this shit. I've got kids on the outside there. I can't keep having my kids come and visit me in prison. It's not fucking right. And like I say, it goes on. And then, like I say, you've got the convicts that they'll get out, they'll commit crime, they'll go back to crime, they'll get breached, they'll get recalled to prison, they end up back in prison. They get out, right? They're back into the cycle of crime, they go back to prison, right? If you've got nothing to look forward to on the outside, example, right? I was in prison. I've been very blessed and lucky, right, to keep my property while I've been inside, right? If I lost my property, you can light me off tomorrow. Seriously. Because prison's easy, right? I've got family, like, but we're not really close and stuff. Like, I'm closer with my ma, but like I say, overall, don't really do family, yeah, man. So if you could light me off tomorrow, if I lost my property, right, you could light me off, it wouldn't bother me, right? I could go back in. And that's why when I do these videos, I understand both sides, right? There are people that miss their families, and that, honest to God, yeah, I've seen it where people have been on these family days, right? Family days are like visits and stuff where people's kids come along and stuff, and they do like painting and stuff with the kids and stuff, and they keep the picture that the kids painted and put it on the cell wall and stuff, right? And they've come back, right? And they've done like they've had a bit of a classroom thing, right, where it's installed into the mind about like how like kids are growing up without dads, and like prisoners, kids that's dads are in prison are more likely to offend themselves when they're older and end up in prison, right? And that makes certain prisoners mindful of their actions are affecting the kids. Then you've got prisoners that don't give a shit, right? They don't care, right? All they know is prison. And like I say, the more times you go into prison, right? The first time I went into prison, right, I didn't know my head from my arse, right? I didn't know what was going on, right? But then when you go in more, the more times you go in prison, you know the regime straight off the bat, and you take to it like a duck to water, and you become very comfortable within prison. You know the routine, you know the regime, you know how to get your visits, you know how to manipulate certain screws, right? Because some screws are old school, right, and you're getting nothing out of them, and then you've got other screws that you can manipulate and stuff and maneuver and stuff like that. You know how to play the system. You know how to use spice or other drugs as currency. You know how to play the system. You know how to play the role. You know how to get things, right, to get things your way. And like I say, some very, very clever cons within prison. Never sit there and think prisoners are stupid. Look at me, I'm uneducated as fuck, right? Let's go with no qualifications, right? I do interviews with the media, right? I get contacted by the media, right, to do interviews and stuff like that. And just by doing these interviews, I've become more articulate and stuff. Sometimes I waffle on, and other times I'm very, very, very articulate and I make my point very well. I must be doing something right to get 400 subscribers on here, but that's not through education or anything. That's just me talking through my experiences. So there are a lot of prisoners within the prison system that are very clever, very clued up, right? But there's no help there. You've got prisoners in the system as well that are like, there's a grey area. You've got prisoners that want to change and that will change. You've got prisoners that won't. And then you've got prisoners that want to change, right, but they're not given the skills. There's prisoners in prison screaming out for help, for education, for training, so that when they get out of prison, they can retrain, right? They gain qualifications in prison, right? It's rare though, there's rarely success stories. Get out of prison, right, with a qualification, and they're able to go back to work, gain employment, right? Even though they've been in prison, gain employment, pay tax back into the system, and go again and live a second life and a second chance at life, right? Everyone deserves that chance, right? And like I say, prisoners are lost in the system. If the Ministry of Justice, right, are thinking that prison reforms people, bollocks. Like I said, the only person that can change your attitudes and your behaviour is you. And people are not changing because of the prison system. People are changing because they're sick of putting the family and the kids through the rigmarole of prison, right? Prisons, I'll be honest with you, prisons are just human warehouses, guys, right? Where people are going in, right, and people are leaving in body bags, people are leaving with mental health issues, people are leaving addicted to drugs like spice and other illegal substances. And it actually does more damage than good. And like I say, if the Ministry of Justice think that prison reforms people and everything else, prisons are like colleges for criminals. You can pick up criminal trades because you are making criminal connections with criminals across every range of fucking offences you can imagine: firearms, drugs, credit card fraud, importing drugs, importing cigarettes. There's many avenues, right? And like I say, when you get out, when you leave in prison, these prisoners that you've befriended and stuff that might have committed 100 crimes but been caught for one, I'll give you numbers to contact this person and that person. And then what happens? You get out, you call these numbers, you get back into the cycle of crime, because it's better to be earning something than earning nothing, right? So, and like I say, what the criminals do, they revert to type, they go back to crime. That's all they know. It feeds them, right? And people make a lot of money doing it, right? Like I say, eventually you could end up in prison and every dog has its day and all, everything else. But like I say, prisons do not reform people. Prisoners just decide they've had enough of going through the system. They change their attitudes, they change the behaviour, and they do it for the friends and for the family and for the kids. Other prisoners are lost in the system. They carry on committing crime. And then, like I say, in prison, you just create criminal connections, which then actually makes you worse when you get out. Right, guys, I hope I've addressed a few issues here. I'm going to leave it here. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll speak to you all soon. All right, guys, bye.